Alvin, what, from your philosophical and theological point of view, can you say about the nature of the person?
I guess I take a sort of old-fashioned view on this. I mean, I know it's all the rage nowadays to be a materialist, to think that human beings are material objects, maybe their bodies, maybe their brains, but I don't believe that for a minute. I don't think that's right. If I were a material object, it seems to me I would have to be my body, or maybe my brain, something like that, or some part of it. But it seems to me perfectly conceivable that I should exist when my body doesn't. So suppose we name my body B. Seems to me I could exist when B doesn't. So if it's possible that I exist when B doesn't exist, then I'm not identical with B, because then there'll be something true of me that's not true of B, namely, possibly exists when B doesn't. That's true of me, but it's not true of B. And my evidence, my reason for thinking that it's possible is in part that I can easily imagine it. I can imagine my waking up in a beetle body. My other body, I find out, the one I had, that was destroyed.
Right. But this distinction between A and B is a possibility. It's not, it is an indeterminate fact.
Well,
but you're saying the possibility itself becomes a fact because it makes A and B different because there is this possibility.
Yeah. So if
is that sufficiently strong?
Well, if there are possibilities for A that are not possibilities for B, then A and B are not the same thing.
Is that not because you are then defining this putative difference based on a possibility? So it becomes circular.
There's nothing circular about it. It is based on a possibility. I mean, the basic idea is that if there is a possibility for me that isn't a possibility for my body, then I am not the very same thing as this other thing.
Why do you think today so many people who are theologians have moved more to a material, a physicalist approach to the person?
Well, I think with theologians, quite often what happens is they are rejecting a kind of Platonism, rejecting the idea really that the body is totally inessential to a human person and doesn't really matter, and the body is the prison house of the soul, as Socrates said, you know, best to get rid of the dang thing, you know, forget the whole thing, get out of it if you can. Well, theologians, Christian theologians find this objectionable, and rightly so. They think God created us with a body. God must have thought it was important for us to have bodies. Bodies are good things, they're not bad things. We shouldn't, you know, do our best to get rid of them or anything like that. It's also true that many more philosophers and others, neuroscientists like you and others, are materialists now than was the case, say, 200 years ago. And I think that has to do with the fact that lots of really tight connections have been discovered between brain on the one hand and mental functioning on the other. And no doubt there are those tight connections, and no doubt mental functioning depends in essential ways on brain function. But dependence is one thing, and identity is something totally different. I mean, also digestion depends on brain functioning, but one doesn't say, well, really, digestion is a brain function, not something separate. I would say the same thing should go with respect to mental functioning.